Hello and welcome to tonight's video. My name is David Webb and tonight I'm going to be making a video of the final game in this year's US-UK Internet Scrabble tournament. Tonight's players are Jason Katz-Brown of America and Ed Martin of the UK. He has played Cobbnut. We didn't get to see his first rack, but we do get to see Ed's rack, and he has drawn a blank, which is good for Ed. He does, however, have a duplicate A and a W, so bingo prospects are slim, if not zero, but he should easily be able to resolve his rack to leave himself a good chance of a bingo next go. And we have the company of our railbirds this evening, who will be sharing their comments with us in the right hand side of the screen. Ed clearly needs to play off a W and an A, which he could do by playing WAB down here, WAB, with a W on the triple letter square. That would score 16 points. It would also block this double-double line. Furthermore, WAB takes an S front hook, which is a good thing for Ed as he has the blank, so he is looking to benefit from an open board. One possibility being suggested by... well, that's a good play by Ed. He gets 20 points for Meow, takes out the double-double line, and leaves himself with 1 point tile, so there's a good chance of bingo rack next go. Wow, that's a terrific play from Jason. Mungoose. Ed has challenged it, and the move is valid, so Ed gets a 5-point penalty. Ed does have a bingo on his rack. He can play revalued down here, but is there anything better? It's very tempting to play a bingo when you see it, because it will always score well with the 50-point bonus, and you may think that you're saving time that you can use with trickier racks later on. However, it is worth spending the time looking for a better bingo, because the difference between your bingo and a better bingo might be significant. And our railbirds have suggested Slavard down here. That's our Budev who has suggested that. I wonder what other bingos are available. Well, when you're looking for a bingo, one thing you do is consider if any of the triple word squares are available. And on this board, only this triple word square is available, so Ed would be looking for a bingo beginning with a U, and I can't see one with the letters on his rack. So one's next thought go to the double word squares, and we've seen revalued and Slavard, both of them going through a double word square. And Ed plays revealed in the revalued spot. Jason has 3 O's, and he will be looking to get rid of at least 2 of them. One possibility that's been suggested is Hoopo, which certainly plays down here, which gets rid of all 3 O's. That play has the disadvantage, however, of opening up this triple word square, and indeed this one over here. But it certainly resolves the duplicate O problem. Another possibility would be to play Pooh down here. Well, Jason plays Hoopoe, quite an aggressive play, and Ed challenges that, which is a little surprising. And Ed has an interesting selection of letters. It looks like it's close to a bingo, and I'm sure Ed will be looking to see if there is indeed a bingo on his rack. If there isn't, Ed can certainly play dodgier across here, which will score reasonably well and deny his opponent access to the two triple word squares that Hoopoe opened up. As an alternative to dodgier, Ed could play gored, G-O-R-E-D, again through the E of Hoopoe, and that would leave DIS on his rack, which is a reasonable rack leave. The word ridged is also playable through the same triple word square and E of Hoopoe. One interesting play that has been pointed out: when Ed played Hoopoe, he could have played Coho down here, which would also have left him with a reasonable leave and would have been less aggressive than Hoopoe, in that it would not have opened up triple word squares. So thanks to Pooh for making that suggestion. Pooh is Helen Gibson. She is a member of the UK team in this tournament and is also representing England at the World Scrabble Championships, which are taking place in a few weeks' time in Mumbai. So good luck to Helen in that tournament, and indeed to all of the other competitors. In fact, both of tonight's players, Jason and Ed, are competing in that tournament as well. Helen has made the interesting observation that if WI was good, then bird dogs would be playable down here, and that would be a terrific bingo to spot from this rack. Unfortunately, WI is not good, and Ed has played dodge for 24. Probably suboptimal. I think a better play would certainly have put a D or a G on that double letter square. Jason has the Z. He hasn't got a bingo-y rack, but with the Z he will be looking to score well. So let's see what opportunities are open. Just looking at Jason's rack, he could play the word P-U-T-Z, which would leave E-A-T. But I'm not sure that that is playable on this board. One possibility being suggested is zap across here for over 40 points, placing the Z on the triple letter square. And that's M28Ale, Evan Simpson, who has made that observation. And Evan has also pointed out that Zeta is playable in the same spot. The U is not a good letter to retain on your rack, but if you keep the P with it, its badness diminishes, because U and P possess what in the Scrabble jargon is known as synergy. Together they're better than when they're apart. Jason plays zap, scoring 41 points. And another defensive advantage of that move, given that he has a 60-point lead, is that it denies this bingo lane across here. And Z does not take any front hooks, so this line is not open to either player to use either. Well, Ed does not have a bingo on his rack, that he should be able to score reasonably well. W and H are both good scoring letters. He will, however, be looking to play one or both of his L's. So how can he manage that? One suggestion from our railbirds is whirl across here, and that would leave LRS on his rack and would also open up this column for an S hook to whirls with the S playable here. Ed is behind and therefore would be looking to have an open board. Howls for 30 points scores well. It certainly resolves the problems on his rack, but unfortunately it uses up the S, and I wonder whether whirl retaining the S would have been a superior play. We'll find out tomorrow when I analyse this game. Certainly what can appear to be a good move from a human point of view may turn out to be not so good when analysed, and when that happens you can then think about why the analysis has reached the conclusion that it has reached, and that way you can learn more about this game. Jason has a pretty horrible rack, 3 T's, a U. Not nice at all, a long way from a bingo, and not easy to leave himself with bingo-y tiles for next go. Pooh has suggested mutt, and that's what Jason has played. Ed's a little unfortunate. He has picked up 2 eyes from the bag to join the one that was left on his rack from the previous go. So now he has 3 eyes. That is not good. And he has no high scoring tiles on his rack, so it's going to be difficult for Ed to score well this move. He'll be looking to play off at least 2 of the eyes. And we see here that Ed has challenged again. He's challenged the word vowels, which suggests that Ed did not realise that he was opening up the board with that hook. One play that's been suggested is Pili across here, 12 points, and that certainly resolves his rack problems because it would leave him with AIRS, which is a very good rack leave. It doesn't have an E, but if we look at the remaining tiles we can see that there are 9 E's still left, so there's a good chance that Ed would draw an E, and if he did draw an E, that would go very well with a rack leave of AIRS. We shall see after Jason has made his move. And Jason's rack has recovered very well from last turn's atrocity. I don't think he has a bingo on his rack, but he should be able to score well with the K and the Y. And certainly if he could play precisely the K and the Y, his rack leave of AENRT would be excellent. Well, Jason plays Kyanite for 44 points. And Ed has drawn an E to go with his AIRS. Unfortunately, the other 2 tiles he drew were both duplicate tiles, a second A and a second I. So no bingo for Ed, and again he's faced with a rack with limited scoring opportunities because there are no high scoring tiles on his rack. He'll certainly be looking to play off the A and the I, and one possibility may be to play AI down here or even AIA down here, and it's AIA that Ed plays. I'm sorry. Jason has the Q and he has the U to go with it, which means that this is a good rack for Jason. Usually when you've got the Q your heart sinks, but when you have the U you should be the opportunity to score well. Certainly one move that Jason can play would be QA QUAI across here, putting the Q on the triple letter square. That would be 33 points, and that would leave EIRT, which would be a fantastic rack leave. Is there anything better than that? One observation made by our railbirds is that Ed should have played Raya down here rather than AIA, and the reason for that is that had he played Raya, this bingo lane would have been opened, and Ed is 70 points behind, so keeping an open board is of value to Ed. Especially when we notice down here that there are 4 R's left in the bag. Usually an R is a good letter. Well, it is a good letter, but Ed chose to keep the R on his rack. Playing it on top of AIA to make the word Raya would have been reasonable given the number of R's in the bag. One of our railbirds has pointed out that QUAIR is playable across here, but that scores 7 more points, and perhaps the same point applies, that using the R is beneficial because of the number of R's in the bag. But Jason chooses to retain it, and Ed is a little unlucky with his duplicate letters in this game. I'm just looking to see if I can see a bingo, and I can't, but Ed plays quite quickly the word SIF, and I'm wondering if Pili takes an S. Let's just check that, because it may be the plural of pilum. Well, please ignore what I'm saying. Pilis is valid, and SIF is a good play, getting 42 points. It resolves the duplicate letters on his rack and scores very well. Jason has a reasonable rack. I can't see any bingos on his rack, but he should be able to score reasonably well and leave himself with a decent leave. Actually, it's not that great a scoring rack. One of our railbirds has suggested Covert down here for 27 points. And that will be a good play. Playing off 6 tiles at this stage of the game, when there are only 23 tiles left, would help to expedite the end of the game, and that is in Jason's advantage, given that he is 60 to 70 points ahead. If a floating E was available, Jason would have over tire, but there isn't. Another advantage of playing Covert is that it blocks this bingo lane across here. However, were he to play Covert, it would open up floaters of an E there and an R there. So opening up 2 8-letter bingo lanes and closing down 1 7-letter bingo lane. Probably the floating letters would be of more use, because the bingo lane across here depends on playing the S there at the end of meows, and far more bingo words end in an S than have an S in the middle. The main bingo lane open at the moment is this one across here, and it's difficult for Jason to block that lane without opening up a bingo lane across here, and the bingo lane on the top row would score more than the one on the second row. So Jason may be in the situation of having to leave that second row bingo lane open. The whole of this upper right part of the board is completely dead. There's nothing that can be played there. The only way of opening that up would be to play short word down here, but that would only open up a bingo lane down here, which overlapped 2 or 3 letters. It could, however, open up a bingo lane across the top here. Well, that's I was going to say a curious move, but actually it's a very good move because it does block the bingo lane across here. So well done, Jason. Now, Ed has a bingo. He has car lines down here. He should see it, and he will be kicking himself if he doesn't get it. And now we have a tied game, 284 points apiece. And Jason has got 3 triple letters on his rack. So has the pendulum swung in Ed's favour? I'm just wondering if Jason had played covert, would Ed have had a bingo? Well, we can check that later. Right now we've got Jason's move to consider. He has no tiles on his rack which score more than 1 point, so his scoring opportunities are going to be limited. Also, his strategy of closing down the board is now in tatters because he no longer has a lead to preserve. One move Jason might consider is Rets across here. It only scores 12 points, but it resolves all of the rack problems that he has. Now, Ev has made the same point that we were just considering. Would he have had anything against cover or covert? Let's see if our railbirds can answer that. Well, our bud Dev, who is Anand, has suggested alieners. So, if covert had been played down here, we would have had an E here, and alieners would have played across here. Jason plays Tyre. Although he was level at 284 points each, it was Jason's go, so Jason in some way still has a slight impetus or momentum, or a slight lead. Ed draws the J, and he can certainly play G's across here for 33 points, which would put him in the lead. It would also get rid of the duplicate E. He would, however, be left with a B and a C, which would be bad for bingos, but good for scoring. And if we look at the board now, really, bingo opportunities are practically 0, so it's going to be a scoring race from here to the finish. In light of that, G's looks a pretty good play. But is there anything better? Well, I think there may be. One of our railbirds has spotted Jab down here for 43 points, which scores 10 more points than G's, which, given the closeness of the scores, could turn out to be crucial. Ed plays Jar for 40, and we see Jason has the second blank. Usually when you have a blank, your instincts turn to bingos, but on this board I don't think there is a single bingo lane. The closest we get to a bingo lane is across here, and that would be a 9-letter word through TI. Well, Jason's rack is reasonably bingo conducive. Maybe there is something through TI. Let's ask our railbirds. I can see a retinent, but that's only an 8-letter play and therefore only uses 6 of Jason's 7 tiles. Well, we've got a swift response from John O'Loughlin, who is one of Jason's teammates. He says there is nothing through the TI, so we shan't spend any more time looking for something. This is an interesting position. Jason is now behind after Ed's JA play, and he has a very bingo conducive rack, so he may choose to open a bingo lane. But on a board as tight as this one, if you open a bingo lane, your opponent may well simply close it down, and if they close it down and score more than you got for opening it up, your problem has simply got worse. The way around that is to open up a bingo lane that your opponent cannot block. But it's not easy to see such a play on this board. One move that's being suggested by our railbirds is NR down here, and that's just for score, 21 points. So that would draw them practically level again. Another possibility that's been mentioned is to play NU here. Now, if we look at the bottom of the board, we can see that there's still a G left unplayed. So if Ed did play N here, then a move could be played across here, placing the G there in the triple letter square, triple word square, making no. It becomes then a gamble for Jason as to whether or not Ed has the G, and if he doesn't, Jason can choose to use his blank as a G. But overall, given the scores, I think that the risk of playing NU exceeds the advantages. NUR and Quare looks reasonable. One very nice possibility that's been suggested is Tung, T-U-N-G, down there, which opens up a bingo lane across here with the S on the triple word square. There are no S's in the bag, so the only person who can take advantage of that is Jason with his blank. Let's just check if Tongue is good. Yes, it is. So I think Tongue would be an excellent play. So well done to Power Slave for suggesting that. Power Slave is Shane, and he is a member of the Welsh team who will be going to Mumbai for the World Championships shortly. Well, we have a very close and intriguing game, and we also have Jason's clock running down. He's only got 3 minutes left, and he's in a tricky spot. Having praised the word tongue for opening up the bingo lane along the top, one problem with that is that it doesn't score very well. It only scores 6 points, and although Ed cannot use the triple word square that tongue opens, he can obstruct it by playing across here. Another point about playing tongue, or indeed NUR and Quare, is that it doesn't use any of the E's on his rack, and there are 2 E's in the bag, or 4 E's in the bag from Jason's point of view. And Jason plays Lenton, which is a curious move. Our railbirds don't like it, but perhaps Jason had his eye on the E's in the bag and didn't want to be swamped by them. Well, It didn't score very well with only 12 points, and Jason's now 10 points behind. Can Ed take advantage of his 10-point lead? He's got a B and a Y and a C, so he should be able to score reasonably well. Notice from the remaining tiles in the bag that we still have the X outstanding, and there's a good chance that Jason drew that last go by playing off 5 tiles. So does Jason have the X? And if he does, can he score with it? Well, yes, he does have the X. However, Ed has done very well to score 33 points for BEY, Bay, and he's established a 43-point lead. We're now in the end game. There are no tiles left, and we can see what is on Jason's rack. Sorry, what is on Ed's rack. And Jason will know that that is what Ed has got. Jason is very short of time. He's only got 1 minute 40 seconds left. He's got a 43-point deficit. What can he do? Now, a splendid possibility that's been pointed out is grudgeful down here. I don't know that that would do enough to win, but it's a fabulous word. That would score 48 points, which would take Jason into a 5-point lead, and it would leave him with just the X on his rack, which he could score 17 points with next go. It would be a very tight finish. Jason is running very short of time, and it would be a very unusual word for Jason to look for, so I'm not expecting him to spot it. Jason plays grudge. So nearly, but not quite. I don't think Ed can go out with this rack. Yes, he can. He can play Gry Easy across here. Let's just check that that's good. And it's not good, so undo that suggestion. If we assume that Ed cannot go out, can Jason win? Ed has only a 10-point lead. What can Jason do with his FX blank? Jason can play fax across here. Thank you to Ellie Dangur for pointing that out. But is that enough? Well, that would score about 40 points. So I think indeed it would be enough. But if Ed blocks fax, can he win? This is a very close game. Who is suggesting Aya across here, which takes out both opportunities for Jason to play his X, both across here and across here, placing the X underneath the E. That would score 11 points, giving Ed a 21-point lead. But would that be enough? Well, Pooh has hit the nail on the head by saying any other spot for Jason to play out. Because if Jason can play out elsewhere, then blocking fax is unlikely to stop Jason from winning. And it's been pointed out that even though Jason can't go out if Helen were to block fax, he could play XI down here, which would be a 35-point play. But our railbirds are suggesting that in that event, then playing the word CIRE would win the game. This is very interesting. Ed is, he's still got 4 minutes, so he's still got a little bit of time. Jason has got very little time indeed. But of course, he's able to use Ed's clock for his own thinking. I'm sure Jason will be kicking himself when he realises he's missed Grudgeful. I know well, that's a surprising move. Ed plays CIRE, and Jason goes out with Fax, and that's a win for Jason. So, well done, Jason. Bad luck, Ed. Well, that was a very exciting game because it was tight right down to the end, and I've no idea how that game would have ended if both players had played the end game optimally. That is something else that analysis will reveal, and I will be doing that later. In the meantime, let's quickly check for lost bingos. I don't think there were any bingos that we saw that weren't played. There's Grudgeful. That would have been truly beautiful, but it wasn't to be. Right. So there were no missed bingos in that game. I don't think Jason has come back yet to say whether Aya blocking Fax would have been a winning play for Ed. So we will just have to leave you on tenterhooks. Thank you for watching this series of videos. I hope you have enjoyed it. And I look forward to making more videos for you on another occasion. Well, just before I go, let's just draw your attention to Jason's comment. Aya wins by a lot. So, Ed blew it. Well, that's Scrabble. Thank you. Good night.